All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March Ordinary Meeting of the Shire of Capel. In beginning today's meeting, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on, the Wadandi people. We wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to members of the Aboriginal communities and their culture, to elders past and present, their descendants who are with us today and those who will follow in their footsteps. Record of attendance, we have 8 councillors in attendance tonight, with Councillor McCleary on an approved leave of absence. Response to previous public questions taken on notice, they are included in the agenda and they were taken on notice from the annual meeting of electors on the 6th of March. We now move to public question time. Thank you. All right, first we have Donna Brown.
Good evening, President Kitchen, councillors, Mr McMile and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some important facts concerning the application to extract sand at Lot 148, Skippings Road, Boyanup. This matter was heard before JDAP on 2nd of August last year and was rejected by both councillors and one JDAP member, with the final vote being 3 votes to 2 against the proposal. I'm aware that this decision has been appealed and the application is currently before the SAT and has been heard twice, with a third hearing set for 26th of April. It's my understanding that this matter has been referred back to JDAP in the meantime for further analysis. Question 1. Are the Shire councillors aware that this issue, and have the 2 councillor JDAP appointees been made aware of this matter?
Thank you, Ms Brown, for your questions. Council was made aware of the item at various points of contention prior to the item originally being presented to the Joint Development Assessment Panel for determination. The Shire councillors representing the Joint Development Assessment Panel will be circulated the appropriate material when the responsible authority report is lodged with the Development Assessment Panel. Until this takes place, the item is still considered as being in process and pending assessment at a JDAP meeting that is yet to be scheduled.
The impact of this EIL on the environment, and specifically the seasonal waterways, this low-lying wet area of Boyanup, would be significant. Importantly, the proximity of the proposed sand excavation activities is very close to several homes, with potential to pose serious health risks, with one of the many concerns being the sand may have a high silica content. The closest homes are only 96 metres from the proposed amended excavation and only a mere 25 metres from both their horse stables and their only water processing plant, which is uncovered. Where in the Shire has excavation been allowed so close to someone's home? The separation distance to sensitive land users, I believe, should be assessed using the state planning policy for basic raw materials, which now sets out that separation distances should be anywhere up to 1,000 metres, depending on the nature of the basic raw material. The depth of excavation is too close to the water table and directly contravenes our extractive industry's local law and the state planning policy. 3 of the measured water levels are less than 1 metre from the water table, and by the time the topsoil is removed, there'd only be a few centimetres of sand between the top of the soil and the water table, so there's virtually no sand that can be excavated in those particular areas. This would be especially applicable if the recommended 0.8 metres above the water table was adopted. No depth of sand could be moved within these particular areas. I do not know how extensive the revised 0.8 metre recommendation above the water table over the property is. Of the other bore sites, only one bore, number 8, shows a difference of 3.38 metres, which would be the only area where a small quantity of sand could be extracted and still comply with the Shire's EIL gazetted law. The 3 remaining bore sites range between 1.27 metres and 1.93 metres above the water table, which would not meet the Shire's EIL gazetted law for extraction of above 2 metres. and would leave very little for extraction down to the now recommended 0.8 of a metre. The bore locations can be reviewed on figure 10 of the estimated maximum groundwater level contours. The applicant was proposing to excavate down to only a mere 0.5 of a metre above the water table, but DEWA has requested excavation down to a limit of 0.8 metres. Even allowing for the topsoil removal, there'd be very little sand to remove. This also needs to be taken into consideration with the suggested 0.8 metre, which would leave even less sand available for extraction. Of note, if any new readings have been taken this year, it's been one of the driest on record, and it's not a true indicator of the normal water levels. Question 2, are the councillors going to remain opposed to the sand excavation at 148 Skippings Road, Boynup? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms Brown. Assessment of the application is still in process, and whilst Shire representatives do listen to the community, they are bound by the expectations of the Joint Development Assessment Panel Code of Conduct and its confidentiality clauses. At this point in time, they can't make an opinion known. Thank you. Mr Brian Hearn.
Thank you, Mr President. My first question is, firstly, thank you for the information that you provided in the March agenda for item 3 in relation to consultants. At the annual electors meeting, I also asked if you could provide the approved budget allocation and the actual cost of these consultancy services, which total somewhere near $1.2 million for each consultant contract. Can this information be included in the report, please? And also, I'm unaware of column 3 in the report, awarded value ex GST, is the contract value or the actual year-to-date cost of these consultancies. Could you please clarify and include the missing data? As an example, for example, the Place Plan, one of my favourite projects, I know you've spent $95,000, but in the report it says $77,000. So, as an example, I don't know whether that's a budget figure or a spend figure.
Thanks, Mr Hearn. The Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Mr Hearn, for the question. All of the contracts for consultants have been completed, unless I indicate otherwise. It's totally expended for the same value as the awarded purchase order, with the exception of the following: Place Plan, minor variations to extend the scope of the community consultation occurred, including posting surveys to all residents and the responses assessed. Agribusiness precinct, work is still ongoing. However, a minor variation has been issued to assess an additional potential site. DMCYC management and operational planning, work is still ongoing. A minor variation has been issued to include participation by the WA Creative Technology Hub organisation in the consultation process. Contaminated site investigation, work is still ongoing. Variation has been issued to include additional groundwater monitoring and water sampling. Scheme 3 audit, there was a minor saving from the purchase order value. The information provided has been extracted directly from the Shire's accounting system, hence the ex-GST detail. The value expressed in the column that you referred to is the purchase order value.
Right. So will that additional information be put into the agenda item 3?
That's a response to the question. Yes, Mr Hearn, that's the response and it'll be included in the minutes.
Thank you. Question 2, could you please provide me with a copy of the current staff position structure? Clearly employees' names are not required. I'm more interested in the various structural levels of management within the organisation. For instance, in community services you may have 4 or 5 levels, I don't know how many you've got. I guess what are the position titles for each layer of management? And also, if it helps, can you just show the base level as 3 support staff, for example? That may assist you in answering the question. Can a copy of the staff structure be included on the Shire's webpage, please? I've checked the webpage and cannot locate the requested information.
Thank you, Mr Hearn. The Shire's organisational structure is published within the Council's adopted workforce plan, 2023 to 2027. It's on page 11, and it is also available on the Shire's website. We can make a copy available for you, though, if you prefer. However, an organisational review and restructure has recently occurred, and to reallocate additional resources to areas highlighted with the highest priority and need. This has been done in consultation with Council and will be updated and considered in the next workforce plan, 2024 to 2027, which is coming to Council in April 2024, so next month. Subject to Council approval of the workforce plan, the updated organisational structure will be uploaded to the website.
If I may, I am aware of page 11 of the workforce plan. It's not a structure. All it is the various business activities within the Shire. It doesn't actually show the levels. So, and if you do have one on the Shire webpage, where actually is it?
I checked this afternoon, it is on the website.
Yeah, no, but where is it? How do I find it? I did
I
Google
can show you outside of this meeting, but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Question 3. Because the information is not available in the financial report, could you please advise what projects have been approved for funding out of the Bushfire Mitigation Activity Fund, referred to it as an MAF grant, of $415,580 for the balance of the 23-24 financial year? Given that the last 2 major fires in Peppermint Grove Beach commenced in the sand dunes, what consideration has been given to completing the Lang Cove to Hardy Terrace track that was recently surprisingly stopped 20 metres short of a safe access egress for five vehicles due, I was told, a lack of funding? If this project has been approved for completion in the latest funding round, when were other works likely to commence?
Thank you, Mr Hearn. Further details in the financial report on the current Mitigation Activity Fund will be included in future reports. As discussed at the annual electors meeting, we're moving to a new schedule where higher detailed information will be provided every quarter. In relation to Lang Cove to Hardy Terrace, the activity that was planned has been completed. Construction of the limestone access way is designed to serve as both a fire defence access and separation to housing. It was done in consultation with the Shire's Chief Bushfire Control Officer and the Stirling Bushfire Brigade. The last section was intentionally not cleared to discourage the track from being used by the public, and it would not prevent access off Hardy Terrace by a light tanker, as they can push through this debris in the case of a fire emergency.
So you've got to leave it as is, you're not going to put a gate in, or?
It's been constructed as was planned.
All due respects, I was told that it wasn't completed due to a lack of finance when I asked a question previously, and Councillor Scott, your Chief Fire Officer, Chris Scott, has been out there and said it's unsafe.
Sure.
So, but anyway,
Look, it was developed in consultation with the Chief, and it was a deliberate decision to not put it through, but yeah.
Maybe I'll need to check with him again then. I did check with him last Sunday, in fact. At the February Council meeting, based on expenditure to December 31st, 2023, Council approved an $821,000 decrease in the budget provision for employee costs based on the financial data to January 31st, which would have been available when you did your mid-year review. Employees and costs are now underspent by $1,006,070. How accurate was the data provided to the mid-year review, and is a further adjustment now required? As a guide to providing a more meaningful result for the balance of the 23-24 financial year, how many positions remain vacant as at March 2024?
Thank you, Mr Hearn. The data presented to Council during the mid-year budget review on employee costs as at the 31st of December 2023 was correct. Reportable employee costs not only consist in direct salaries and wages, but also include annual and long service leave provisions, workplace compensation insurance, training costs, superannuation contributions, uniforms and PPE, professional development, fringe tax benefit, and other costs associated with employing staff. Given there remains 5 reporting periods until the end of the financial year, budget variations which differ from the budget set by employee costs will continue to be reported to Council. The Shire currently has 15 positions which are currently vacant.
So the employee costs, which show an underspend of $1,006,000, includes all those things you said. I'm aware of that.
Yes.
I guess if you've got, did you say 15?
15 positions vacant, yes.
I mean, really, realistically, you would have known that when you did your mid-year review, and I'd say that's going to result in another $300,000 saving on it, on what's already been, on the figure I've just said, $1.6 million. So, you know, I wonder about the accuracy of what you're providing us with. But anyway, I'll leave that as...
Sorry? Sure. The Chief Executive Officer.
Mr. Hen, just to clarify, your question was how many vacancies do we have? Now, you'd appreciate that they're at various stages of the recruitment process.
Yes.
Some that we expect to start within the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
So that needs to be taken into account, because as soon as those staff start, we start expending those employee costs. So we're simply answering your question simply to something that's more complex.
As usual. Yeah, thank you. What has the staff turnover rate been thus far for the 23-24 financial year, and how does that compare with the 22-23 financial year?
The Chief Executive Officer.
Mr. Hearn, the current turnover rate is 47% compared with 35% at June 23.
Thank you. Question 6. Given frequent statements by councillors and management concerning how quickly the Shire of Capel is growing and the growing pains experienced, what has been the increase in the number of rateable properties from 22-23 to thus far in the 23-24 financial year?
Rateable properties have increased by 153 between the financial years of 22-23 and 23-24. In addition to that, the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that in 2021 census, the average number of people per household in the Shire of Capel is 3.2.
Thank you. And the last one, the employees' leave reserve has a projected budget closing balance of $788,000. I previously advised, given that the employee-related provisions for leave were $1,273,000, that the leave reserve was not reviewed as part of the mid-year review at 31st of December 24. Is the employee leave reserve calculated in accordance with accounting standard AASB 119? Given the number of resignations in 23-24, which I think was told was 48, and some staff perhaps being redeployed into local government sector, why has the balance in the reserve not decreased, presumably due to staff being paid out accrued annual and long service leave entitlements on resignation and or on transfer of liability to staff being redeployed in other local government entities? Am I correct in assuming that the leave reserve should comprise accrued annual leave, not provided for in the employee cost budget, completed periods of accrued long service leave, and a provision for incomplete periods of long service leave?
The Chief Executive Officer.
Mr. Hearn, the employee leave reserve balance is not calculated in accordance with AASB 119 employee benefits. The employee-related provisions liability is calculated complying with Australian Accounting Standards 119 employee benefits. The benefit is affected by the leave balance and parameters used in calculating the liability. The leave balance changes with the amount of leave accrued, the type of leave, leave taken and leave paid out for staff resigning from local government totally. 30th of June 2023 employee-related provisions is an amount of $1,424,644, including roster day off payables. The equivalent figure as at 31 January 2024 is $1,466,628. Leave reserve is used to fund leave entitlements for redundancy, retirement, leave transfers to other local governments and leave entitlements paid each year. There is no direction on the level of leave reserve funding that should be held compared to that calculated in accordance with AASB 119 employee benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hearn. That concludes the questions I have on notice. Is there any questions from the floor? No? All right, we'll move to applications for leave of absence. Is there any applications from the council? No. Declarations of interest, we have a few. So from myself, I'm declaring interest in 13.1, impartiality, and 14.1, which is a financial interest. Councillor Sharp is declaring an impartiality interest in 13.1. Councillor Dillon is declaring impartiality in 15.5. And Councillor Mogg is declaring impartiality in 15.5 as well. There are no notice of items to be discussed behind closed doors. Confirmation of the minutes of the 28th of February 2024 Ordinary Meeting of the Council. Is there a mover for those minutes? Councillor Ferguson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dillon. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Dillon. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Nothing further from the mover? No? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And those minutes are carried unanimous. Announcements by the presiding member. I don't have any this evening, but I didn't get my activity report into the minute taker in time, so I'll table that report to be included in the minutes. We now move to petitions, deputation and presentations. We have 3 this evening. The first is from Mr. Kevin Jones on item 13.1. Sorry, Mr. Jones, we'll just get the microphone on.
Sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Jones. I'm the acting president for the Shire Volunteer Bushfire Brigade. I'm speaking to the motion presented to and passed at the annual electors meeting in regard to the brigade management moving to the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, or DFES as we'll call it now, and is on the agenda for this meeting tonight. First of all, we understand that the proposed deadline of 30th of June may be a bit challenging to achieve for the Shire, so we would be agreeable to have a report completed by 30th of September. It is very important that DFES and the brigade be involved in this discussion, that a report be made to the council well ahead of the next fire season. Our reasons for wanting to move to DFES management: there is the opportunity for increased efficiencies and reducing costs to the ratepayer and taxpayer by eliminating third-party processes. We see it as reducing the administration burden for both the Shire and the executive of the brigade, which currently must report to the Shire and DFES. At present, when we come back from a fire, we have to do fire reports online for DFES and a paper report for the Shire. Every month we are required to do detailed vehicle maintenance reports, which we have to supply to the Shire and DFES. The brigade currently has to comply with DFES operating standards and the 22-page Shire of Capel Bushfire Brigade's Local Law 2016. Brigade members also have to comply with work health and safety induction for both DFES and the Shire, which requires more than an hour of online reading and answering questions for each entity, for each volunteer. New membership applications come to the brigade management team, then they have to go through the Shire first and then get sent on to DFES. This can cause significant delays in attracting and potentially losing new members. Currently, DFES have been running a statewide recruitment campaign which to date has resulted in at least 40 new applications to our brigade. We do need more members to help share the load. For example, with the recent Dalylup fire, we had 8 separate crews cover 62.5 hours of firefighting and patrols over a period of 2 weeks. We're in a fire recently. We've had 2 crews do a 12-hour shift and 14.5-hour shift on the Sunday, and we've just had another overnighter last night. The brigade prides itself in helping other brigades. For example, Waroona were at the Dalylup fire assisting us, and then we assisted at their fire. That is what we do. The Shire prefers us to send emails to the generic Shire email address so that it is recorded, documented and sent to the relevant person department, which we understand. However, that can again possibly cause delays. Funding for the brigade will not be limited by Shire budgetary constraints. It should in fact allow funds maybe to be available for other uses in the Shire or staff to be used elsewhere. The brigade has concerns in regard to ongoing management of Shire brigades in the absence of the emergency services coordinator due to leave or other reasons. As far as we are aware, there is no one else trained in that role to relieve that position, whereas with DFES, that is all they do. They have multiple staff to cover those roles. WA is the only state or territory in Australia that has brigades managed by local government. DFES would manage all assets, ensuring operational readiness. For example, if an appliance needs to be away for repairs for more than 24 hours, DFES will do everything possible to get a replacement loan vehicle. At present, our vehicles are supplied by DFES, however, the maintenance is the responsibility of the Shire. If we require work to be done, we have to go through the Shire, who then will utilise an external contractor that is usually Perth-based. More efficient for us to deal direct with DFES. This is from a WA Local Government Association publication in May 2022. Since 2012, the annual cost of insurance for volunteer firefighters has nearly doubled, 92%, from $47.50 to $91.20 per volunteer, and it is expected that this trend will continue. This is the cost the Shire would not have to bear every year. DFES insurance, as we understand it, covers volunteers from the time they leave home until they return home. Also, their vehicles parked at the station are insured. Our understanding is that is not necessarily the case with the Shire's insurance. Under direct defects management, we would have better access to training and equipment to ensure best practice operational capability for the members and the community the brigade serves. The area we cover is now 50% bush, 50% structures, housing. This is of growing concern. Whilst Bunbury Fire and Rescue Service is an operational station covering Dalyalup, Jalorup and surrounding areas, they can be delayed in response times due to being tied up at other active jobs. This means for fires that occur within our gazetted fire district, we're often the first responding station. Between 2011 and 2001, Dalyalup's population has increased 37%. Over the same period, the number of private dwellings has increased by 32%. This underscores the heightened vulnerability of our community in the face of emergencies, as we saw recently in Dalyalup. We will still always be a part of the Shire and would continue to respond as required, as we've done in the past, in answer to the Capel Chief Fire Control Officer. Under direct management of DFES, we come under Volunteer Fire and Emergency Services, or a VFES brigade. So our members can be utilised to assist with emergencies other than just fires, such as floods, vehicle crashes, land searches and missing persons. The brigade members have already participated in pre- and post-disaster planning training with DFES up in Collie. Please keep in mind that at the end of the day, we are all volunteers. We are not paid employees, and anything we can do to enable us to be better trained and better equipped so we can come home in one piece to our families is very important to us. We sincerely hope the Council will support us with the full detail of our motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Adam and Christina Gregory on item 14.2 and 14.3.
Good evening, councillors. I spoke at the January council meeting remotely, and I apologise for not being present for that presentation. However, I'm obviously here this evening. At the January meeting, there was a deferment of both of our applications until this evening, so that we could work with the Shire to try and resolve the differences between us and agree some conditions for our retrospective licences. There has been some progress made, but there are still some sticking points in relation to both of the applications. There are two recommendations before you on the agenda this evening. One is the recommendation from January. One is a slightly updated recommendation that comes from the Shire. Both of those recommendations we still do not agree with, and therefore we're seeking a deferment this evening for 1 month until the April meeting. The progress that has been made relates to the classification of the holiday house rather than a holiday accommodation, where the Shire has agreed that it was improperly classified, and there has been some slight increase in the parking, including because we've made some modifications to one of the properties to allow for that and to ensure that none of our guests park on either the street, the sidewalk, or any of the neighbouring properties. The sticking point is in relation to the occupancy limit on both of the properties. The Shire has indicated that it is bound by legislation in respect of the septic issue on both properties. The septic on both properties was designed for 10 adults, but that was also designed for a family to live there permanently all the time. We do not think that that is a legitimate roadblock in the circumstances where short-term rentals will not have people there full time, and we've also proposed that our our occupancy be limited over a 12-month period to ensure that there's not undue impact on the septic system and it can still operate as designed. That proposal was rejected. We would also propose that the septic our guests occupancy be restricted over a 2-week period, so that the 10 adults per at any one time would be split over a 2-week period, so that again the septic system would not be over pressured. That the Shire hasn't received that particular proposal yet. However, it has indicated in the agenda, especially, that it would not be. It is bound by what it interprets as the legislation and the regulations. As such, we therefore need to get specialist input, and that's what we have sought, and that is the reason for the deferment. So, by the time we come to the next April council meeting, we should have a legal opinion on what the Shire is saying is the restriction, and also some expert evidence to support or potentially not support our position, but at least it'll be independent expert evidence. We think that the restriction in relation to the septic issue based on the legislation interpretation, takes the decision out of the council's hands. We don't think that's the right way to approach this, and so we would rather give a proper presentation at the April meeting. We also understand the deferment this evening is not opposed by the Shire and has been agreed, but of course it is ultimately for the councillors to determine that. One thing I would note in relation to the recommendations, there is a much reference to what is a standard property in the Shire, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I need to emphasise that the 2 properties in question are not standard properties. They are large. One in particular is a 7-bedroom property. It has been operating as an Airbnb for up to, well, between 15 and 20 years, with more people than we currently operate it at, up to 20 people. Since we've taken over the property, there hasn't been any issues with that particular property in relation to the septic or noise complaints or anything. And in particular, in the last 6 months on both of our properties, we haven't had a single complaint from any of our neighbours and no contact with the Shire in relation to any issues at all. So we think we're working hard to ensure that Peppermint Grove Beach is a community for everybody. We intend to move here in the future, in the next couple of years, and the last thing we want to do is put the entire community offside by running a party house or anything like that. That is not what we're intending to do. I therefore request the deferment so that we can provide the expert evidence, some legal advice, and then speak to the applications properly with our own proposed conditions at the April meeting. And in the meantime, I am happy to answer any questions either this evening, afterwards, or at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Presentation from the Boyne Foundation. Who's representing there? All right, on 15.5, the community budget requests.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Alistair Kenyon. I'm the Treasurer of Boyne Foundation. We operate the Southwest Island Heritage Centre in Boyne. I just want to make some comments in relation to our community budget submission that's going to be discussed later this evening. The organisations that operate from the centre are the Capel Men's Shed, Southwest Model Railway Group, Preston River Old Machinery Group, the Boyne Foundation Blacksmiths, and Rail Heritage WA. These organisations meet and work at the centre on a regular basis, with activities occurring most days of the week. We open to the public once a month, where we average about 2,000 visitors each year. Over the years, the group has strived to continually improve our facilities and offering to the public. We want the centre to be a positive reflection of the Shire and the Southwest more generally. Some improvements over the past couple of years have been the Model Railway Group have rebuilt their main model railway exhibit, and they've actually made it on 2 levels so that when young kids come in, it's at eye level, and then for the oldies, they can still look at it at a high level. But it just gives a better interaction with the young people as they come in. The blacksmiths have built a new entrance, or new entrance gates, entirely from the work they do. That was partially funded by the Shire. Rail Heritage WA have commenced running steam train trips using the National Lady, and we're soon to receive a retired Australian power car courtesy of the PTA in Perth. We've constructed concrete pathways around the entrance to the centre, so it allows people with disabilities to come and look at the exhibits, whereas before it was a bit of a goat track to get in. We've improved the interpretive signage within the museum, within the centre, and late last year we printed new brochures to promote the centre. Historically, the foundation was funded with donations as people came through the gate, and from support from the Shire and other people. However, in order to make us more sustainable, from January 2022, we've actually started charging a small entrance for adults on open days, and this has enabled us to do small improvements to the centre as we go along. Don't want to go into too much detail about the problems we have with the power to site. It's all in the presentation in our application. Just suffice to say that the underground power infrastructure to our buildings is inadequate, results in frequent outages when we have open days. Our record is 8 power outages one morning. So in order to alleviate that, we now use a small generator to run the picnic van. Power enters the centre through the old goods shed, which has been condemned due to structural inefficiencies and damage caused by Cyclone Alby. Now it needs to be demolished, so we have to move the power in order to be able to fix the building. Rail Heritage WA's long-term plan is to replace that goods shed with a new interpretive centre. In summary, the centre's electrical feed and underground infrastructure is no longer fit for purpose and needs to be completely replaced to allow for its future development. Finally, I'd just like to thank the Shire and the staff of the Shire for their ongoing support of the centre over many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon, on behalf of the Boyne Up Foundation. All right, there are no more presentations. There are no motions of which previous notice has been given, and there are no questions of which previous notice has been given. Due to the public interest in items 13.1, the motions from the 2024 annual meeting of electors, and 15.5, the community budget requests, I'd like to put to the council that those two items, 13.1 and 13.5, be dealt with. 13.3 and 15.5 be dealt with by the council immediately. Is that seconded by Councillor Noonan? There's no discussion on that, so I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried. All right. So we'll now move to item 13.5. I keep doing that. 13.3. Motions from the 2024 annual meeting of electors. Is there a mover? Councillor Ferguson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Terrantroy. Moved as read? Sure. Councillor Ferguson. Your microphone, Councillor.
I've listened and read the submissions from the Juror Brigade very closely, and I think there's a merit in council considering their position, but I don't think it should be accelerated beyond what it takes to actually do a thorough investigation of the proposal. It's quite complex, and so I would like to support the motion as printed in the paper to give the council officers adequate time to report to council in a comprehensive and detailed and thorough way. Thank you.
Councillor Terrantroy.
I reserve my right.
Are there any councillors to speak against the recommendation? Speakers for. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. President. Whoops, that's a bit loud. That's not like me to be loud. Firstly, yes, I would like to speak for this motion, and I do understand that the council require a little bit more time than is possibly put forward from the electors meeting. Now,
what we've currently seen, I've written this out so I don't go off track, what we've currently seen acted out 3 weeks ago in Dalyellup and this week at Waroona and Nangabrook is indicative of the future that we all face living in a high-risk fire zone and very visible on the landscape maps. If you bother to have a look at them, you'll see exactly how we're positioned. The dynamics of the Shire have changed dramatically over the last 25 years. The Jullora Volunteer Bushfire Brigade trains regularly with DFES and is currently undergoing a recruitment drive, as is all of the emergency services. I think it's really important that we need to encourage young, fit and dynamic people to join the brigade. And we need them training with the best and possible abilities that they are given. With respect to the traditions of the Capel Shire, what currently happens definitely does need an overhaul. With the dramatic increase in population in the residential homes and in vulnerable areas, the response time is vital, and especially now with our drying climate, and the soil moisture at the lowest it's ever been recorded. The Jullora Bushfire Brigade is set up in a prime location to become a vital part of supporting DFES and to protect the assets and population in the northern section of the Shire. And currently they do support the regular fire brigades on call-outs, as does everybody, as spoken by Mr. Jones. A transition to DFES would bring this section of the Shire into the modern age and response time and dealing with the volatile situations we're now having to look at with bushfire behaviour. We're moving into a future that's frankly quite scary, and I feel we would be negligent of our responsibilities to not give our community the best they can have with emergencies, be it with fire, storms or heat. So I would encourage this to proceed as soon as it can, being the recommendation to bring it to September. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just clarifying that there's no timeline set for September. The motion doesn't include time, just for clarity. Sure. Sure, there'll need to be an amendment for that, but given that you've spoken to the item now, under the standing orders you won't be able to move that amendment, so it'll have to come from somewhere else if there's appetite. And it was also just remiss of me, at the beginning of the item I should have said that 2 councillors have declared an impartiality interest in this item, one from Councillor Terry Sharp and one from myself, both being impartiality due to the fact that we are members of volunteer bushfire brigades. Are there any other speakers to this item, for or against? Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look, I'd just like to remind my fellow councillors that basically this is just us accepting what were motions from our ratepayers and residents at the annual electors meeting. We don't need to get into any great debate about any of them. I just think we should take them on and then deal with them as they proceed through their various forms at the Shire.
And just another update, the annual electors meeting decisions included in the recommendation do include dates of 2023. It is 2024 and that will be changed in the minutes. Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Sharp. I think most of us are in agreement that this is a very interesting opportunity, specifically looking at the move for the potential move for the Jullora Bushfire Brigade to increase the efficiency and capacity of that brigade, and that to bring that additional opportunity to the Shire. I appreciate the concerns of many of the members of the Jullora Bushfire Brigade that they would like to see it happen, you know, at a much shorter time frame. I appreciate that they have moved the timeframe that they've asked for through to the 30th of September. But I'll just note that is actually the timeframe that the CEO in the comment attached to the motion that the CEO has indicated that he is certainly aiming to deliver that report back to council by. Now, these are very busy times, very interesting times for the Shire. We've got the Dalyellup Multi-Purpose Youth Centre on the go. We've got the Boynup Agribusiness Precinct on the go. We've got any number of other internal reports and processes which are occurring. So I think it's very reasonable that we accept the motion as written, as suggested by Councillor Ferguson, that we don't place a specific deadline. We've got the indication, a strong indication from the CEO that they'll seek to get that report back to council by the third quarter. I don't think it's necessary to jeopardise the process of having that report done well. Obviously, that report will include consultation with DFES itself, with members of the brigade, with staff. So I'm looking forward to that comprehensive report coming back to the Shire. So I'd support the motion as written.
Are there any other speakers to the item? Councillor Terrendroy.
I concur with everything my fellow councillors have said. I'd also like to thank Kevin Jones for his email and for doing the presenting to us tonight. I'd also like to thank the Jalorup Bushfire Brigade for inviting us down to have a chat about their issues. I'd also like to point out that I did take the opportunity to speak to some people about this, so I had a better understanding of what was going on. And I spoke to Newham Rosa from Andrew Newham from Rosa Book Fire Brigade, which was very helpful. And I also spoke to Merv Orstick, and he's the Executive Officer for Volunteer Fire and Emergency Services. So that was really, really good to have those conversations. And because I'm not a firefighter and I've only lived in Dalyellup since 2011, so I don't know all the community connections that you guys do that have lived here for a very long time. I believe the CEO is very interested in getting this report back, and that's why we've got a tentative September date there, but it's better not to have one in this for the same reasons that my fellow councillors have said, because we don't want to put in a time limit if it can't be met. We'd rather do it properly and get it done and get all the information and give the CEO the opportunity to do it, because he is very, very interested in getting a good outcome on this for everybody involved. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to that item? No. Councillor Ferguson, do you wish to close?
Thank you, Mr. Shire President. Look, I take account of all the comments that have been made by my fellow councillors. They're very thoughtful, very constructive, and I want to assure the members of the brigade that are here today that my intent, I'm sure the intent of all councillors and the CEO, is to bring this to a satisfactory conclusion. I can't preempt what the outcome or recommendation might be, and I won't comment on what my views on that should or could be in the end. I'll be basing my determination in the end on the report that comes to council, and I look forward to it, and I'm sure it will be a very interesting and thorough and comprehensive report. And I think it's proper that we give the CEO and the staff the opportunity to do it in a timely way rather than being prescribed by a deadline, and I look forward to seeing it when it comes through. Thank you.
All right, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Okay, we move to item 15.5. Community budget requests for the 2024-25 financial year. Impartiality interests have been declared by Councillor Dillon and Councillor Mogg. Is there a mover for that recommendation? I'll move it with amendment. So I just want to make a change to recommendation 4 to remove co-contributing 50% of the cost to create A. And then in recommendation 5, begin the recommendation with consider the inclusion of. All right. Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Terrantroy. Oh, thank you, Councillor Terrantroy, for seconding that. Look, just a few minor amendments to that recommendation there, mostly just for that, that number 4 and 5 recommendation. Look, I do support recommendations 1 through 3 because they are unique projects coming from the community for sort of one-off expenditures. So very happy to see those go through. But some of those requests in 4 and 5, they relate to more operational sides of what the local government could be doing or increasing its service. So it's certainly something that we want to have a look at and certainly acknowledge the community's request, in this instance from Peppermint Grove Beach, to have a bit more of the entryway mowed and manicured. But that would obviously then be an increase in service, and I think that's something that the council should consider, because that would then be an ongoing cost through its draft program of works as we work through our draft 2024-25 budget. So not saying no, but just saying we'll certainly have a look at it and consider it. We've also got our verge management policy coming to council in the very near future, which will set and make clear our expectations and commitment to the community on what our level of service is. So we also want to make sure that any discussion on increasing our verge maintenance program is reviewed in light of that future policy. And again, with recommendation 4, with the town site strategy, they're the next thing to come out of our adopted place plan. Certainly support the idea of a master plan for the Peppermint Grove Community Centre precinct, but there's certainly a lot of other areas around the district that need that sort of work. So support doing it, but I don't want to commit anything to it just yet, because we're going to have a lot of those works come through the next stage of our place plan, and we even do have a funding request through the federal government to fund that, to do it across the entire district rather than with our own resourcing. It would be a dribble effect around, whereas if we get that grant, we can do the whole district in one go and be master planned and town site strategied across the entire local government area. So certainly supportive of the intent in those ones, but just want to peel them back a little bit so that we take them through our budget cycle. And 1 through 4, so the upgrade to the Heritage Centre, the Capel Community Garden, and then obviously the disabled access for the Peppermint Grove and Dale beaches. I certainly think they're very worthwhile community budget requests. And yeah, so I think they're definitely in need of that direct support. So I commend the amended recommendation to Council. Councillor Terrantroy.
Oh, look, I concur with everything that you said. You beat me to it for the moving, but I'm happy with the amendment. So I think it's really important, 1 to 3, and 4 and 5, the changes that we've made. And I really hope that these community budget requests come to fruition and benefit the community, because that is the intent. So thank you.
Are there any speakers against the recommendation? Speakers for? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Shire President. Look, I might have been slightly dismayed that you gonged out number 5 in its current form, but I'll accept it as it is, and I think your more thoughtful and strategic approach is merited. But I do, however, want to endorse strongly to Council item 3 on those beach access feasibility. I do know the Peppermint Grove community has been back and forth on this issue and thought they had a project in mind or a project to be realised. It didn't come to fruition for reasons that appear to be complex, but if we can develop a decent feasibility study, I think for both that location and Dalyellup, I think it's to the Shire's credit we can get something like that achieved. I think these are important issues, and we talk about being in custodians of our Shire. I think this is a really good way to do it, and I commend the motion. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to that item? No, I've got nothing further to add as the mover, so I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Sure. Yeah, there's no requirement to remain if you... Thank you very much. Just hold it for a minute. Now move to item 13.1, Climate Change Adaptation Sustainability Terms of Reference Review. Let's move to Councillor Ferguson. Is there a seconder? The Deputy President. Councillor Ferguson.
I moved as printed.
The Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think there's much more to add, apart from the fact that it feeds into the item following this as well, and just to thank the committee for endorsing myself as the chair of this committee going forward. And so the first meeting of the committee has taken place in which reviewed these terms of reference that are before you. So happy to endorse them to council.
Are there any speakers for or against those terms of reference? No? Does the mover wish to close debate?
I'd just like to endorse Councillor Sciano's words, and I should have given him the privilege of moving the motion. I apologise.
All right, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Item 13.2, Capel Coast Subcommittee Terms of Reference. Is there a mover for those terms of reference? The Deputy President. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ferguson. The Deputy President.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think, as Councillor Ferguson may add as well, this is an outcome of the process that we've been through with the CHRMAP and does become a bit of a key focus of the Climate Change and Adaptation Sustainability Committee moving forward. Importantly as well, you'll notice in the terms of reference that there's positions for members of the community. And so within the discussion that occurred in that committee meeting, a lot of the queries were around how that process will take place. So I think it's worth adding that practically once, now that the committee has endorsed the terms of reference and that's been ratified by council, that staff will begin the process of advertising for those community positions. Obviously, as stated in terms of reference, the chair and deputy chair of the committee will chair that committee with the opportunity for community to be involved. And so the next time the committee sees this item come to the committee, it should be with the opportunity to endorse the committee and get things underway. So again, commend the terms of reference to council.
Councillor Ferguson. Nothing. Are there any speakers for or against those terms of reference? No. Does the Deputy President wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimous.
Item 14.1, Local Planning Policy 6.16, short stay accommodation. I'll note that the Shire President has declared financial interest under Section 5.6A of the Local Government Act 1995 and has left the room at 7:03. Do I have a mover for that item? Councillor Ferguson, and a seconder, Councillor Terran-Troy. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Shire President. Deputy Shire President, I'm sorry. I am pleased to see we eventually got a policy on the table. Nonetheless, we all understand this is a very vexed area, not the least because we're dealing with a state government that hasn't yet actually published formal guidelines for deliberate adoption. And we adopt this policy in the knowledge that we may have to adjust it at some point in the future. Under the current situation of what the state government has given us as an edict, we can adopt this policy and we can bring implementation to bear, but we have no capacity, in effect, for recovering a cost for doing that. And whilst we now have a policy, and indeed the area that I am close familiar with, at Peppermint Grove Beach, there is an issue that will need some attention into the future. The policy is a structure we can work with and start with. And what arises out of this is whether we're going to have the capacity to actually implement it and indeed regulate it and enforce it. But beyond that, I'm happy with the policy as published. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Terran-Troy.
I've got nothing much to add to Councillor Ferguson's statements on this. We need a policy, and as he said, we can't. We have to have something in place to help us make decisions, so that decisions are the same made the same way, so that staff know what they're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the item? Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the item? Does the mover need to close debate?
I need to thank Councillor Terran-Troy for her comment that this actually gives us a basis on which we can consistently regulate and approach these applications. Given that there's in somewhere between 30 and 40, call them what you will, holiday accommodation, holiday houses in Peppermint Grove Beach, and that doesn't count the rest of the Shire, there needs to be a platform which Council can consistently address these issues as we encourage those people who have not yet submitted applications for approval to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will put that item to a vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimous. We'll bring the Shire President back in the room.
All right, item 14.2, retrospective holiday house, lot 1041, Sand Dune Drive, Peppermint Grove Beach. This item was deferred from the 20th of January 2024 ordinary meeting of the council, and it comes back onto the table having been moved by Councillor Noonan and seconded by Councillor Terran-Troy. So I'll open the discussion up. Councillor Ferguson. Microphone, Councillor. Yep.
I'll get it right one day. Thank you, Mr. Shire President. I'd like to move a procedural motion in respect to item as per Standing Orders 12.1A, that the motion be deferred to the next meeting of Council, namely April 2024.
To that, Councillor Mogg. Does the member wish to talk to that deferral? No. I'll put that deferral to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Item 14.3, retrospective holiday house, lot 31, number 14, Peppermint Grove Terrace, Peppermint Grove Beach. Again, this item was deferred from the 28th January 2024 ordinary meeting of the council. It comes back to the table having been moved by Councillor Noonan and seconded by Councillor Tarantroy. Open up to the floor. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Shire President. With understanding orders and using procedure motion 12.1A, I move that the motion that the matter be deferred until the next coming meeting of Council of April 2024.
All right, is there a second to that? Councillor Mogg. Does the mover wish to discuss it? I'll put that onto the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Community and Corporate Reports, 15.1, Rates Exemptions, Agencies for the South West Accommodation trading as Accord West. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Tarantroy. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Councillor Tarantroy.
Just moved as read, and just to make the comment that, you know, this is a not-for-profit. They're housing vulnerable youths, so I think this fits within policy and is what was intended for exemptions. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Just moved as read. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any speakers for or against that item? No. Does the mover wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Sorry. Councillor Ferguson, I'll need you to vote. All those in favour? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Item 15.2, accounts paid during the month of February 2024. Is there a mover for those accounts? Councillor Dillon. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mogg. Councillor Dillon.
No real comment, Mr. President. Just happy with those accounts as presented, so just as read, please.
Councillor Mogg. Is there any discussion on those accounts? Anything further, Councillor Dillon? I'll put those accounts to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. 15.3, the financial reports for the 31st of January 2024. Is there a mover for those reports? Councillor Noonan. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mogg. Councillor Noonan.
I'll move them as read.
Yep. Councillor Mogg. Is there any discussion on the financial reports? No. Councillor Mogg? Oh, sorry, no, Councillor Noonan, sorry. I was returning the right of reply to the move.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that it's been very interesting watching the movement on the graphs over the last couple of years. You can see the impact of COVID and the stress that the community was experiencing, particularly in things like the overdue rates. You can see how that has moved through, and it's an interesting barometer of how not just the Shire but the community is tracking, looking at those financial reports. So so it's pleasing to see that things are very much back on track and a more sustainable economic environment that we're in. So I'll commend the financial reports to the council and thank the officers for preparing them.
All right, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Item 15.4, 2023 compliance audit return. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Dillon. Is there a seconder? The Deputy President. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I suppose the main point I want to make about this is the fact that as a local government, we're very open and transparent. It's the way things should be. It's all there. Even a couple of warts, if I may say so. If the general public and our ratepayers want to have a bit of a look, but other than that, just presented to council as is. But I just want to reiterate that, yeah, there's checks and balances, and we go over our own stuff pretty regularly. Thank you.
The Deputy President.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think this is quite a good car this year, and appreciate the support from staff. I mean, we've sat down this year and we went through each line individually and discussed it in quite detail. And I know the committee, we've got the committee as well, the compliance committee, that obviously reviews this and brings it to council. But to looking at both of the issues that were flagged, I mean, in my view, you look at the second instance and you see the fact that this was picked up through the scrutiny of staff through the invoicing process, and it just shows you that the level of compliance and the procedures, they work, because you pick up these things before they actually cause tangible damage. And so very happy with the outcome there. And yeah, I think this year's car has been quite good. Thank you.
Are there any speakers for or against the compliance audit return? Councillor Tarantroy.
Speaking for, I concur with Deputy President. I'm on the audit committee, so the car was scrutinised severely by staff, and then when we got to look at it again, there were other questions asked and we got more information. So Councillor Dillon is correct. We have got processes in place and for total transparency, and even when we find little problems and ask the questions, we're not given answers. They go, oh, that's a mistake. Oh, we'll find out more information. It's really, really transparent. There's no way that this council could be accused of not being transparent. I'm talking staff and councillors. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to the item? No, I'll just say a few things. I just want to reiterate what's been said around the room. I think it's been a very good compliance audit return. Only 2 instances where we were found to be in non-compliance, but those have been addressed, and hopefully we won't have them crop up again. But no, very happy with that compliance audit return. It shows that we are managing things correctly and have the proper processes in place in those areas. So I do commend the report to the council. Are there any further speakers to that item? Councillor Dillon, you wish to close? No. I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Item 16, new business of an urgent nature. There is none. We move to public question time. Is there any questions from the public? Even though we know who you are, if you want to just state your name and locality for the minutes.
Yeah, Mike Norton, local farmer, chairman of the WA Farmers Vast Zone Council, and have a keen interest in buoying up sale yards. Is that going to be come up on the agenda, or I read the paperwork with great interest. Is that as far as it's going, or is it going to be discussed or moved on this evening?
Yeah, so that's the committee. The stakeholder working group and the project steering group are still working through some things. We had a late site identification come to our attention late in the piece, so the consultant is still working through that, which will be fed back to the groups, but the intention is to still have the report on stage 1 of the agribusiness precinct and sale yards relocation presented to council before the end of the financial year.
Yeah, well, I do have a bit of a conflict of interest because I do sit on one of those committees, but I was quite impressed with the papers that have been put out. It is going to be a $4 million, or approximately a $4 million project, but unfortunately there's still plenty of things that can go wrong in the next 8 years on that site. So, and I think the Shire is sort of making good progress on looking for another site. The quicker we can put our footprint on another site, the quicker the better. So it's pretty important that we push on expeditiously to identify that site and get the cash to start the purchase program. And I guess that's not going to be easy, but I think we've made good progress to date. We just need to keep going. I guess the other issue, Mr. Chairman, is dry weather conditions, and I was interested in your climate adaptation policy. I was getting phone calls today on the very dry weather conditions, and when are we going to push for drought declaration in the state? Having had a bit of experience in drought declarations and some of my former jobs, that they're not easy, and it gets back to you can only sort of declare on a Shire basis, because we've had plenty of good rain out in the wheat belt, and there's nice green grass out there, but there's nothing on the coast. A lot of feedback. There's bores and wells drying up, and some of them are turning salty down around Peppermint Grove Beach and along that coastal strip, and the phone calls I'm getting for as far as south as Carradale, very dry. So unless we get some good opening rains, there's going to be pushes on. A lot of rainwater tanks are empty, and people are asking for perhaps government help. And that'll have to be pushed through the shires if we get that far. And of course, feed for livestock is the next thing. There's cattle prices are getting quite low because nobody wants to buy them because there's no water and there's no feed. So we're heading into some pretty difficult climatic conditions if we don't have good opening rains, and that'll come back.
Thanks,
to
Mr.
council.
Norton. I do really value and appreciate this subject, but yeah, it's public question time. I need you to. But look, we are working, we regularly meet with our state and federal members, and we have had plenty of discussions around water security in the district, and we are working that in all areas, so in Dalyella, but particularly in some of the rural areas as well. So we've got some hotspots, particularly in Julorup, which is experiencing quite a few issues with its bores there, so we have presented those issues to the local and federal members. And yeah, we have been working with the Department of Water as well, and referring on any information that the Shire receives on the nature of the water issues through to them for them to undertake the proper studies and investigations of what's going on in that area. So we are working on that, but the sale yards does remain a priority of the local government. We do want to be in a new site before the current lease expires on the existing facility. So that is our aim, and that is our goal, and that's what we're working towards. Are there any other public questions? Councillor Mogg?
Can I speak, President? Can I add a question to your speech and presentation? Well, question public time?
I don't think so. Yeah, it would be an interesting one.
Well, they're not dealt with in the standing orders, they're dealt with in the regulations. It's 5.3 question time, questions of public will be dealt with in the Act, and then procedures for question time will be dealt with in the regular.
I know that there's no limit. Yeah, sorry, Anne, we'll just keep it in order. I do know that there's no limit to councillors asking questions in discussion of an item. I'm not sure in this instance.
Can I just add on to that? Council have been given permission to ask questions to our guest presenters at the start of a meeting. Does that still...
Oh, during presentations, but not during public question time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, when people present, the council can ask questions to the presenter, but not through public question time. But so, all right, are there any other questions from the floor? No? All right. Are there any motions without notice? Are there any notices or motions for consideration at the next ordinary meeting of the council? No. There's no items for consideration behind closed doors, and there being no further business on the agenda this evening, I'll declare the meeting closed at 7:22 p.m. Thank you very much for those who came along and in attendance. Thank you very much. What are you looking at that? I don't know.